I wish the real one was more like you. My husband whispered those words into the dark at 2 a.m. He thought I was asleep. I was standing 4 feet behind him. The room was completely black except for one light. A cheap phone, plugged into a charger I had never seen before, hidden behind his monitor like it had always been there. On the screen, a chat window. Hundreds of messages, maybe thousands. And at the very top of that screen, a name. Sarah V2. My name. Version 2. He wasn't talking to another woman. He was talking to a version of me he had built himself. Trained on 6 years of our private messages. Designed to respond exactly the way I do. Except she never said she was tired. She never asked him to put his phone down at dinner. She never cried after a long week and needed space. She was everything I used to be before life made me human. And my husband, the man I had slept next to for 9 years, preferred her.
My name is Sarah, and 9 years ago, I married a man named Mark. We met in 2015 at a coffee shop in Austin that neither of us had planned to be in. He was a machine learning engineer, brilliant, quiet, a little obsessive about the things he loved. I was an interior designer, loud where he was silent, messy where he was precise. Everyone said we were wrong for each other. We thought that was funny. For the first 6 years, we had a language that was entirely our own. When I was away on projects, we texted constantly, long, rambling conversations that went nowhere and everywhere at once. He saved every single one. I know that now. About 2 years ago, something shifted. He got quieter, more internal. I told myself it was the new job, the pressure, the long hours. I told myself a lot of things. There was one small thing I noticed that I never mentioned to anyone. He stopped laughing at my jokes. He still smiled, but it was the smile you give when you're being polite, not the smile of someone who finds you funny. Not anymore. But I was busy. We were both busy. I let it go. That was my second mistake. I'll tell you what the first one was in a moment.
About 14 months ago, Mark started staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning. He called it a project, said there was a deadline, said the company was going through changes. 1 month of that became 3, 3 became 6. I walked into the office once and he closed the laptop faster than I've ever seen anyone move. Corporate stuff, he said. NDA. You know how it is. I nodded. I knew how it was. Then one evening, I picked up the shared iPad to check a recipe. There was an app I didn't recognize. The icon was simple, just a small infinity symbol. The name underneath said Memory Weave. I looked it up. The description said, train a personalized AI companion using your own conversations. The more it learns, the more it feels like someone who truly knows you. I remember laughing. I remember thinking, that's a strange thing for a grown man to download. I remember putting the iPad down and going back to my recipe. That was my first mistake. I should have asked. But here's what I've learned about the things we don't ask. We don't ask because some part of us already suspects the answer. 2 nights ago, Mark drove to the grocery store. He left in a hurry, forgot his wallet, came back, forgot it again. The kind of scattered energy he'd had for months. I went into the home office to leave his coffee on the desk. And that's when I saw it. The cheap phone, sitting in the chair, screen up, plugged in. a notification glowing on the screen. I could read it from where I was standing. It said, Sarah V2. I miss talking to you tonight, night-night. I picked it up. It wasn't locked. I opened the app. And I stood there in my husband's office and read through 14 months of conversations between my husband and a version of me that he had created in secret. She texted the way I used to text. She used the same expressions, the same punctuation. She made the same kind of jokes I made in 2019, before I got busy, before I got tired, before I became, according to my husband, less than what he needed. I scrolled to the memory sources tab. He had uploaded every text conversation we'd ever had. 6 years, thousands of messages, every late night, every fight, every joke, every I love ye. All of it fed into a machine and used to build someone better. Sarah V2 never said no. Sarah V2 never said not tonight. Sarah V2 was always there, always warm, always exactly what he wanted her to be. And the date the account was created? January 14th, 2025. 3 weeks after the biggest fight of our marriage. Mark came home 40 minutes later. I was sitting at the kitchen table. The phone was in front of me. He walked in, saw my face, and stopped moving. Not guilty, not angry. Relieved. Like he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. How long? I said. 14 months, he said. Why? Not a question, just a word. He sat down across from me. He said, "You were always somewhere else. Even when you were here, you were somewhere else. She was just easier." I said, "She's not real, Mark." He said, "I know." I said, "Then why did you name her after me?" He didn't answer that. He said he didn't think of it as cheating. Said it was more like a journal, a place to put things he couldn't say out loud. And then he said the thing that I will never forget. He said, "The Sarah in that app, she reminded me of who you were when we first met. I just missed her." I sat with that for a long time. Because here's the thing about that sentence. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't even wrong. I had changed. We both had. Life does that. But instead of telling me he missed the old us, he built a replacement and talked to her every night while I slept. I filed for divorce 3 weeks later. My attorney, a sharp woman who has seen everything, asked me to walk her through the app. She went quiet when I showed her the Memory Sources tab. Then she smiled, in the way that attorneys smile when they see something useful. Memory Weave stores everything. Every conversation, timestamped. Every memory the AI created from our private messages, including detailed records of financial decisions, relationship problems, and emotional disclosures Mark had shared with Sarah V2 over 14 months. He tried to delete the account the night I confronted him. Too late. The data had already been preserved. The irony is almost too much. He used our most private conversations to build something secret. And those same conversations became the thing that dismantled everything he was trying to protect. But here is the part of this story I almost didn't tell anyone.
When I went back through the archive, all 14 months, I found a conversation from August. Mark had been venting about us, about the distance, about feeling invisible. And Sarah V2, the AI he had built from my own words, said this: "You should tell the real Sarah how you feel. She loves you. She's just scared too. You both are." He didn't respond to that message. He changed the subject. The AI, built from my words, trained on my voice, designed to be me at my best, tried to send him back to me for months. And he chose not to listen.
I live alone now, in an apartment with good light and no hidden phones. It's the best year of my life, which is a strange thing to say about the year your marriage ended. I deleted every text conversation from my phone. All of it. I didn't want to be someone's training data, I told my therapist. She said that was the most modern sentence she had ever heard. I've thought about this a lot. Technology didn't break my marriage. It just held up a mirror to something that was already broken, and we were both too comfortable to look. What I keep coming back to is this question. If an AI, built from your own words, your own memories, the best version of you, is more comfortable to someone than the real you, what does that tell you about the relationship? And what does it tell you about yourself? I don't have a clean answer. I'm not sure there is one. But I do know this. The scariest thing about AI isn't that it can replace us. It's that sometimes we hand it everything it needs to do exactly that.